Hi, my name is Michael St. Lawrence, and I'm the founder of SalesGym. I'd first like to thank you for joining us on this webinar, and I'd like to begin by sharing with you the most important thing we've learned over the last 5 years after 35,000 coaching interactions with sales professionals, managers, and sales leaders from a wide variety of companies, both B2B and B2C. And it is this. Without consistent weekly practice on the most important elements of selling, like sales messaging and asking better questions, it is very unlikely that your sales team is anywhere near realizing its potential. And that means your salespeople are losing a lot of deals that they could be winning if only their selling skills were at a higher level. What's happening to nearly all sales teams is exactly what would happen to an elite sports team if the coaches decided to spend all of their time strategizing, looking at numbers, tracking statistics, pushing out best practices to the team, but nobody spent much time with the athletes on the practice field going through the drills to improve their strength, conditioning, endurance, speed, and ability to execute the skills that are necessary for their sport. This is the most important thing that is missing in most sales organizations because sales training is typically focused around special events, a half day, a day, 2 days, 3 days, around regional conferences or yearly kickoff meetings. And that's simply not enough to develop the kinds of skills that salespeople need under pressure in today's competitive marketplace. So, this webinar is going to focus on three things that really matter. First, what are the mistakes that most salespeople are making that can be corrected with effective coaching, training, and drills-based practice? Secondly, why so many sellers really struggle with asking effective questions and what you can do about it. And finally, what sales messaging is and why it's so important for you to focus on this area because it's like the ignition, it's the accelerator that gets your people more effective in all elements of selling. But before we get into that first topic, we've got Dean Ray here on this webinar with us that will be manning the chat room and taking your emails. Dean, why don't you quickly introduce yourself?
Hey everybody, my name's Dean Ray. I'm a coach here at the Sales Gym. I'll be working in the background today, just monitoring the chat and just what people are saying and reacting to whenever it comes to what Mike is presenting. And anything that stands out that I think that we need to actually see Mike react to, I'll be sure to put that in front of him so you guys get a chance to see what he has to say on that particular topic.
Thanks, Dean. And when your questions come in, Dean will be sure to bring them into the webinar. All right, let's get into that first topic, which is what are the limiting mistakes that salespeople make? As I mentioned earlier, at SalesGym, we've run over 35,000 drills-based practice sessions with salespeople from a wide variety of industries: financial services, tech, IT consulting, distributors, B2B and B2C. And there are three very consistent mistakes that we see across all industries. The first is what we call the think and present mentality. The second one is just not being able to ask the right kinds of questions. And finally, an inability to differentiate themselves from their competitors in a way that really has impact. All right, let's take a closer look at the most common kind of paradigm or mental model that most people approach influence from, and this includes most of the salespeople on your team, versus a more effective way. The most common paradigm is what we call present and react. And what that means is that most salespeople think of influence in terms of I'm going to present an idea to you, a solution, the capabilities of our products and services, features and benefits, solutions, whatever it may be, and I'm hoping to get a positive reaction from you. So they lead with product and they spend a lot of time talking, and they're hoping that their presentation is so effective that the decision maker says, wow, that's great, tell me more, or hey, that's interesting, I want to get more people involved and take a closer look at this, or finally, hey, your solution is better, we'd like to buy from you. That's the present and react model. And certainly it can work in some situations. It's just a lower odds selling or influence model. The far more effective model, which most of us already know because it's presented in every book and every sales training program over the last 50 years, is to approach it more from a ask, listen, understand first mentality, and then present your solution and your products and services after you understand the decision maker's needs, so that we can tailor our presentation to what's important to them and really focus on the areas that that's gonna resonate with them more. So again, you've got two models: present and react versus ask, listen, understand first. And we find that about 70 to 80% of all salespeople, certainly with all the clients that we work with and the hundreds of companies we've met over the years, 70 to 80% of all salespeople approach influence and selling from the present and react mindset. So if you as an organization can change that in terms of they approach selling situations with the ask, listen, understand mindset, their results are going to improve. Here's another thing though. It's not just them understanding how to do it. They have to go through extensive practice and drills and repetition until it becomes instinctive. It's a mental model that's hard to change, and we've developed a way in which that can happen. Now, one of the reasons so many salespeople are in that present and react mindset comes to that second mistake that they make, is they're just ineffective at asking the kinds of questions that produce maximum results. And because they can't ask those questions, or they're just not instinctively good at it, they end up talking about their product or their services or their capabilities or their value proposition, and they're not leading into good, positive, effective questions that move their opportunity odds higher. So good questions increase the odds of success. If you don't have good questions, you're stuck in the present and react mindset. So that third and final mistake we find that most salespeople really suffer from that lower their odds of success is they can't communicate their differentiating factors in a way that really matters. And in some cases, it's they can't tailor it to what matters to the decision makers. But in other cases, they just kind of ram all their differentiators together. They can't communicate them one at a time. They can't really develop a differentiator so that the decision maker they're meeting with kind of sits back and says, wow, you guys really are unique and different. I've got to take a closer look at you. So even their sales messaging is ineffective. So if we can impact those three areas, which is change them away from that present and react mindset, help them become instinctively more effective at asking the kind of questions that increase their odds of success, and then when the time is right to present sales messaging and differentiators that really resonate, their odds of success are going to go much higher. Dean has just given me a signal that he's got a question. Dean, what have you got?
So, Mike, we're seeing in the comments right here, people are asking the question, why do you think there's a high percentage of salespeople that have that present and react mindset versus using that other model that probably gets better results? What are your thoughts on that question right there?
That is a great question, and there's a lot of research on this. And based on what I've read and looked into, I think a lot of it comes from our childhood. Many of us develop a way of getting what we want by describing what we want and trying to convince people why it's important for us to get it. So we develop kind of a self-based influence model. In other words, we're focused on what's important to us. People that are more effective have a different model. They focus on what's important to the person I'm speaking with or I'm meeting with or the decision maker that I'm talking to. And it's shifting our focus away from ourselves and on to the people that we're meeting with that makes all the difference. So I think it's too much focus on what's important to us and not enough focus on what's important to the people that we're speaking with is really the key. So now that we've looked at the three areas that really get in the way of better results, let's take a look at that first step that most organizations should be taking to dramatically improve sales performance. And that area is sales messaging. So let's start by looking at what sales messaging isn't. First off, it's not an elevator speech. It's not short marketing phrases. It's not a value proposition that your team memorizes. It's much more than that. Sales messaging is how we talk about our products, our services, our differentiating factors, our value proposition elements, and this is happening throughout the sales conversation. It happens up front when we communicate our agenda. It happens when we introduce ourselves and what we specialize in doing. It happens when the decision makers ask us what makes us different or why they should buy for us or where the value is in our proposal. Sales messaging is just how we phrase what it is that makes us unique. And when salespeople don't have dynamic sales messaging skills, it's like selling with two hands tied behind your back. You're going into situations with a handicap. And that's what we need to focus on as sales leaders, is developing a practice methodology that gives every one of our salespeople on our team outstanding sales messaging skills. So if we want all the sellers on our team to have fantastic sales messaging skills, we first need to start practicing with them. And the way that we do that is through questions. Salespeople need to answer the most basic softball questions every decision maker has, like, why should I do business with you? What makes you different from your competitors? If I was to buy from you, how is my situation or my problem going to be solved differently from who I'm currently using? What makes you unique? And even more basic than that, why should I meet with you if you're suggesting a meeting? So it's the ability to answer these questions in a very tailored way, unique to the person that we're speaking with, that is what sales messaging is all about. And when salespeople get effective at this and they have dynamic answers, they should be leading to open-ended questions. And we're going to show you how that works in just a moment. All right, so let's take a look at 4 specific steps you can take to improve your team's sales messaging ability. It starts with identifying what your differentiating factors are and really writing them down in a way that you can communicate them in 10 to 15 words, bumper sticker style differentiating factors that serve as headlines for your sales team to remember. The second thing is we have to come up with questions that lead into our differentiating factors, and we'll talk about that more later. And the third, which is an area most sales organizations simply don't have, is demonstrations of what great sounds like. Demonstrations of responding to those questions with sales messaging and effective questions that is fantastic. So it raises the bar and shows everybody on the sales team what excellence really is. And then the fourth area is we have to design and insist on a practice system and regimen that is rigorous and steady and consistent so that sales managers and salespeople together improve steadily every week. So a quick review of those 4 steps. Bumper sticker the differentiating factors. Identify questions that match up with those differentiating factors. Create examples of fantastic that your salespeople can see. And finally, insist on a rigorous, steady, weekly practice system that improves sales managers and salespeople together. Now, let's take a closer look at what we mean by these differentiators and turning them into short phrases or bumper stickers, right? The reason we do this is it makes it easier for sellers to remember them. And when they can remember each of those differentiators, they can communicate them one at a time rather than mashing them all up together. So let me go through a few of them from different industries with clients that we've worked with. All right, so for instance, with a financial services company, an investment firm, a few of them might be a unique approach to protecting against losses, or an extreme focus on supporting your lifestyle in retirement. The third one being an elimination of conflicts of interest through extreme transparency. All right, here's a few from a digital advertising company. First one is unique ability to attract impulse buyers into retail establishments. Second one is next generation data analytics. And the third one is a content team that generates higher impact social media ads. Again, those are 3 bumper sticker differentiators. Let's look at 3 more from a bank. Direct access to talented senior bankers. The second one is trust and estate planning services in-house with no extra fees to our customers. And the third one is more creative ways of generating interest on deposits for business owners. So those are examples of bumper stickers, of unique differentiators for each of those industries. And if your salespeople don't have those, and more importantly, don't know them, don't memorize them, it's very unlikely that they're going to communicate them in an effective way under pressure with decision makers that are asking these questions. And what will happen is they'll improvise them and they'll end up talking too much, it take too long to get to the point, and they'll mash up a bunch of differentiators together so that they really don't have much impact. Sales messaging is much more effective when we zero in on one differentiator at a time, develop it well, and communicate it in a way that leads to effective questions. So that's where you need to start. And if your salespeople don't have them and they're not memorized, chances are they're nowhere near their potential in terms of sales messaging. All right, so in order for salespeople to get better at that verbal sales fluency, they've got to practice. And the best way to practice is by the sales manager or trainer asking them direct questions as if they're speaking to a specific decision maker. And those questions should point right at the differentiator. So for instance, if the differentiator for financial solutions is that we have a unique planning process that helps our investors realize their financial goals, the question that we should be using in the drill should be something like, as if I was the investor saying, listen, help me to understand what is your guys' planning process and how can it really help me to achieve my goals in retirement? See, the question encourages the salesperson to answer with that differentiator. So if I was a digital advertising sales manager and wanted to work on my salespeople's ability to communicate our differentiator around attracting impulse buyers, I'm going to ask them the question as if I'm a decision maker. I'm going to say, so help me to understand, what is it that you guys do that's unique and different that can generate more impulse buyers into our stores? So, if sales managers and trainers understand how to ask the right questions that train salespeople how to respond directly into specific differentiating factors, and now they have a practice system they can execute on a weekly basis and drills they can run the same way a sports coach uses drills on the practice field. All right, so if we've got those differentiators into bumper sticker statements, and we teach our sales managers and trainers how to use questions to practice those differentiators, the next thing we do, or the third part of this game plan, is to create examples of excellence, or raise the bar of what great sounds like. So what I'm going to do is a demonstration of what good or great could sound like. And what I'm going to ask you all to do is, while I'm doing this demonstration, is really write down what you notice is different from the first demonstration to the second demonstration, post it in the chat or email it to Dean, and we're going to debrief what you learned from this demonstration immediately afterwards. So do it quickly if you could. All right, so let's imagine that I'm a financial advisor and I am speaking to a business owner. And the business owner asks me, what is it that makes you different from other financial advisors, or even from financial advisors I've worked with in the past? That's a very typical question a business owner investor might have. So I'm going to give you an example of two ways of answering that question, and you tell me which was more effective. All right, here's the first example. Again, a business owner asking, what's different about you from other financial advisors? I might say, what I think is really different from us is we have a unique financial planning process, and we have access to the kinds of investments that business owners need. And, our investment team knows how to allocate portfolios in a way that can really help you to reach your overall financial goals and what your family is most looking to achieve. And just in general, our whole team is really focused on a higher level of customer service and helping you, get access to the investments that you need, and in general, just give you access to how your portfolio is performing. So that's a little bit about us. What else can I tell you about us and our services? All right, that is a very typical way that salespeople answer a question like that. And I tell you that from experience, from thousands of coaching interactions with people while they're in the improvement process. All right, let me give you another example. And this is the one you're going to kind of write down what's different from the first example of the second example. And here it is, answering that very same question from a business owner investor. What is it that makes you all different from other financial advisors? I might answer by saying something like, that's a great question. And, I could share my opinion, but I'd like to share with you what I hear from other business owner clients that I work with, what's most important to them. What they tell us is that our team has a really unique way of understanding business owners and their needs. Most importantly, how to prepare their business to be sold for maximum value so it creates a better retirement for them. What are the key issues that business owners are focused on in retirement, and what's the lifestyle they want to lead? And what are the tax consequences they've got to really be planning for in advance? And business owners just tell us that our team understands business owners because we focus on them. It's one of our primary goals, is to serve and really give business owners access to the right knowledge, the right information, and the right game plan to live the lifestyle they want after they sell their business. So let me pause for a moment. And what I'd love to hear from you is, what is it that you value most from the financial services firms you've worked with in the past that you would like to see in your next financial services business relationship? All right, Dean, it looks like you've got some comments in the chat room and you may have gotten some emails. So why don't I turn it over to you to kind of summarize what you're hearing in terms of what was different from that first example from the second example. Dean, take it away.
All right, Mike. So just scrolling through the comments, I'm starting to see a theme that people are leaning towards that second example. Here's some of the things that I saw up there. So the first person, Sarah, she said it sounded more conversational and authentic in the second example. Where it's Toby right here, he said that the second example felt more like how a real client would actually explain it. I'm seeing here from Tom, the second example edited with a better question that would have more impact. And then we're looking right here. Denise said, it seems like the first example was somewhat ordinary, and the second example just had more energy and sounded more real. So we're definitely seeing that theme of people leaning towards that second example.
Wow, those are fantastic observations, and you've really keyed in on what made that second demonstration more effective than the first one. And of course, if financial advisors are more effective and they use the sales messaging that I just demonstrated, their odds of success are going to go much higher. And that's what practice, repetition, and drills-based interactions can do for salespeople. So let's review a few of the things that I did. First of all, it's important when we get a question to appreciate the question. A sales interaction is always a back and forth, a give and take kind of interaction. So when questions come up, we should appreciate them and be thankful that they come in. The second thing is we should focus in on very specific differentiators that will resonate to that particular person. In my example, I was speaking to a business owner, so I talked about my expertise as a business owner. And then the third area is that we should use the opinions of our customers. I didn't share my opinion in that second example. I shared the opinion of other business owners, what they value about my practice. And finally, no matter what it is we're communicating in a sales conversation, it should always lead into a good open ended question. And we've found that once sellers start to develop that skill, everything changes for them. That's a hard skill for sellers to get, which is instinctively using open ended questions to keep the conversation going in the right direction. All too often, they end what they're saying with something like, have you got any other questions? Or does that answer your question? And that is the way to really stifle the conversation, and it kind of cuts off the interaction. So, open ended questions and developing that is a big part of this drill. Now, the reason I showed you that is that once an organization develops that practice mentality and they start, running effective drills-based sessions, a lot of the salespeople will get much better in this area. And you can start recording examples of excellence. You can get recordings that are just as good as my second example, if not better. And then you start sharing those with new hires and sales managers that are new, start using them in their practice sessions. And these examples of excellence just raise the bar so that everybody starts learning from one another. And it obviously gives recognition to people that are, at that excellence level, but it also creates an expectation that everybody raise their sales messaging game. And that means the ability to communicate clear, coherent, and effective, resonant differentiators, and more importantly, to be able to ask those good open-ended questions at the end. So when we do this, it gives us the ability to bring in examples of excellence that raise the bar. So, quick review of the first three steps of the game plan. First, we turn those differentiating factors into unique short statements, bumper stickers. Secondly, we train our salespeople and sales managers how to use questions coming directly from decision makers that lead into those differentiating factors. And the third one is we create those excellence recordings to raise the bar of what great is. And that brings us to our fourth and final step of the game plan, and maybe most important of all for those of you that are sales leaders watching this webinar. It's creating a rigorous practice expectation that happens every week between sales managers, trainers, and sellers. Just like sports teams practice on a daily, weekly basis in order to prepare for competition, we've got to develop the expectation that sales managers and salespeople practice every week. If sales managers can put just 5% of their time, an hour or two a week, into practicing with their sales team, the results can be absolutely stunning. When salespeople get steadily better at communicating, those differentiators one at a time in a higher impact way, and they're asking good open-ended questions no matter what they say, their results are going to get better. But this is not going to happen by sending out, a memo or an email or a best practices statement. This is going to happen with rigorous practice, the same way that sports coaches approach it. So what we suggest you do is really commit your organization to more rigorous practice on a steady basis. And what we would like to do is offer to you a demonstration of how a practice session could work. We can show you exactly how a sales manager should work with 3 to 4 of their salespeople at a time in these 15-minute drills-based sessions. What we would like to offer to you is a no-cost, highly tailored pilot to show you how practice works in your organization. I guarantee you will find it radically different from anything you've ever seen, and it will be quite different from what you expect. Every sales leader that has seen this demonstration is shocked by how fast their sales managers and salespeople improve when they go through drills-based practice. And in fact, most sales leaders tell us they had no idea what sales practice even was until they saw this demonstration session. So, we will offer you a pilot that can last as long as 4 weeks if you identify 3 to 4 of your sellers and a sales manager to demonstrate how it works. You will see a remarkable change in these practice sessions. And how it works is it's 60 minutes of practice each week over a period of 3 to 4 weeks. So, for instance, on Tuesday from 11 to 12, 3 to 4 of your salespeople and a sales manager would get together with one of our SalesGym coaches and practice. And those practice sessions are, every week, 3 or 4 in a row, and the difference you will see will be stunning. So, at any rate, that's our offer to you at no cost to demonstrate how SalesGym works. So, on behalf of all of our coaches here at SalesGym, I'd like to thank you for watching this webinar and urge you to feel free to reach out to us if we can be helpful to you in any way whatsoever. Thanks again.